another edition of All Tech here at India's first post-cable network, the Big Scope. On the show today, I've got somebody who runs an extremely innovative online platform who's been running it for the last 6 to 7 years. Now, I'm talking about Coursera. On the show today, I've got the CEO of Coursera, Jeff Magenkhalder. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. There's so many things I want to talk about. This entire realm of online, ed tech firms. I mean, so many of them have sprung up in this last so many years. But before I ask those questions, could you give me a brief of what's happened with Coursera in the last couple of months, the last couple of quarters? What has been happening with you guys, especially with respect to India as well as the world? Just help me understand that.
Yeah, the company was founded in 2012 by Andrew Ng and Daphne Kohler. They're both Stanford professors, and we've been putting more and more courses on the site and drawing more learners. In the last couple of years, the two biggest things that we've done is we've really launched a number of fully accredited master's degrees with a number of our university partners. And we also launched Coursera for Business. And we've seen really good uptake in India with respect to companies who are looking to Coursera to upskill their employees.
The last bit is really interesting when you say you've launched Coursera for Business. Now, if you can help me, differentiate between, now if I'm looking at Coursera as a regular person, I'm like, okay, I have this, I want this particular course, and whatever it can be machine learning to something else, I'll go and do that. Now, When you say business, now help me understand what's the role of Coursera? What role has Coursera played for, say, courses or courses for the CEO community? Do you also have courses particularly for the CEO community in the business in India?
Yeah, for sure. What we've seen is that the world is changing very, very rapidly, mostly because of technology and globalization. And from the CEO right down to the shop floor worker, what we're finding is that technology is really changing the way that that customers behave, and it changes the way that competition behaves, and pretty much everybody in a company needs to learn new skills. With respect to the professors at the universities, they teach things from leadership to just-in-time manufacturing. And on the leadership side, there are many courses on strategic leaderships. We have a course called Strategic Leadership and Management from the University of Illinois, which is great for executives. University of Michigan has a course on leading team and people. And we also have one from Copenhagen School of Business, which is Strategic Management and Innovation. And so we do have a number of leadership and executive courses as well. We even have one from Johns Hopkins University, which is Leading Data Scientists, which is teaching leaders how to understand the language and the job of a data scientist.
Wow. So you mentioned a couple of really interesting things, data scientists, we'll get into that, but before that I want to understand, let us break this down a little bit. If you look at a demography like India, especially now, you have on one hand you have these metropolitan cities, you have certain types of schools and colleges, which you have to pay only a certain from a certain sect of the society can come. People who earn a certain amount of money can go to those institutions. What platforms like yours have helped and done in the last few years, they have democratized this learning process very well. People who couldn't afford say $80,000 a year for some kind of course, they can easily do it at 1/10 the cost at your platform. Now, having said that, Chief, there is a huge growing number of students who are in India's tier 2 and tier 3 cities. There is still a dearth of colleges. People say there are so many engineering jobs, but still there are not so many engineering colleges over here. For example, data scientists. For example, everybody talks about artificial intelligence, machine learning. We don't have specified courses for that. We don't have specified colleges for that. So I understand the metro cities, that is when you come into the city, but how do you plan to reach out to a million more people, million more students who are in these tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India, Chief?
Well, this is a big part of it, actually, is finding the sources that they read and also word of mouth. But we have, on Coursera, we have about 2,700 courses, and virtually all of them you can take for free. Now, you don't get a certificate that says that you passed the course, and you can't take the test, but you can watch the videos to learn the skills at no cost whatsoever. And they're almost all available on mobile. And when we designed the mobile, what we decided is that there are many emerging economies. So we have 78% of our learners, we have 32 million learners, 78% of them are not in the United States. And a quarter of them are coming from emerging economies. And they have mobile devices. They often don't have a phone, but we made it so that you could download these courses onto your mobile phone when you're at a Wi-Fi hotspot. So you don't even have to use your data plan. So these courses are available to anyone with a cell phone who can have a Wi-Fi hotspot to download their course. And we do have a number of courses in machine learning. It was obviously our company was started by Andrew Ng, who knows a lot about artificial intelligence. He's authored a course called Machine Learning. He just launched a deep learning specialization last year. We also have courses on machine learning by the University of Washington, applied artificial intelligence from IBM. We actually have IBM as an author. And we have deep learning for business by Yonsei University in Japan as well.
So let me ask you something at that point, Jeff. Now, you said of course, you collaborate with a lot of universities back in North America and across the world, I'm sure. But, then, for example, say for a field like, machine learning, today, something's happening around machine learning. Some folks create something, the industry is doing something. And the pace at which technology changes is really interesting and sometimes frightening. What if in 2 months down the lane, there's something else which comes on top of machine learning? I'm just thinking, there's an entire field, machine learning, natural language processing, artificial learning, all part of the same family, right? So you have already, say Coursera over here has already tied up with University ABC or an enterprise company like an IBM you mentioned, like 1, 2, 3. How do you then decide in 2 months how do you then decide together as Coursera in 2 months, this is not working. The industry exactly doesn't need this skill set. What do we do? How do you improve upon this? How do you go and work backward on this then? Because courses need to improve. One of the biggest issues with universities and education systems across the world has been certain courses have followed the same pattern for years after years. For example, India. So how do you go back and change a course?
Yeah, a lot of it is customer feedback, frankly. I mean, we do have a content strategy team, and they look at what are the current skills in demand and what is the content that would be valuable to teach those skills. We look at our competitors as well to see what kind of things they're offering. But mostly, we look at which courses consumers are taking in our B2C channel. We have 32 million enrolled learners, and so we watch what they're taking. We also watch not only if they enroll, but when they go through this course, where do they drop off? What videos do they watch twice? What do they share with other people? So we get a lot of feedback on the consumer side. And now on our Coursera for Business distribution, we have over 1,000 companies who've hired Coursera. And they have certain interest in what they want to be teaching as well. So we pay a lot of attention not only to what consumers are looking for, but also to what businesses are looking for. And then we try to let our content partners, our universities and corporations, know what consumers and what businesses are really looking for. And so we try to create a little bit of a feedback loop between customers and content publishers to make sure that they're more current.
Lovely, lovely. So just stay to that point, one more question on that. I mean, have you, or let me put it this way, how have you, tackled the issue of quality or, a shortage of qualified instructors? Have you ever faced that so far?
We have a little bit. I'd say the biggest way that we have addressed that is by really as a business model being a platform. So we don't author our own content. There are no Coursera people creating courses. We partner with lots and lots of other people. So at a given university, there will be thousands of professors. We have 150 universities. So tens or hundreds of thousands of professors are available to author courses. A big part of this is that when you author a course on Coursera, you actually record videos so that people can obviously take the course without the instructor being live, and that provides a dramatic amount of reach. We've recently though we've been offering full master's degrees, and when you take a master's degree, you do get live interactive sessions with professors and TAs, with study hours, office hours, and live seminars. And so in that case, you do have a professor who's teaching live, but the key is that we use Zoom to do large seminars of thousands of people, so that one professor could teach even live. They can teach many hundreds or even thousands of people at a time. And so I think technology is really the key to scaling up the expert instruction that you get from professors.
Lovely. So having said that, I mean, in your experience, you've been running this organization, in your experience, what difference have you seen in terms of courses which are being taken up, particularly in India, irrespective of whether they come from a business or an enterprise background or students? as compared to the rest of the world? If you can
Yeah,
highlight that to me.
a couple things. With respect to the learning experience, we find that learners in India are a little bit younger. So the average age is 28. The average age globally is over 30. We find that they skew more heavily male, so about 70% male, 30% female in India. It's a little closer to 60-40, I think, overall. The types of content is not so different from the rest of the world. There's really a focus on three major categories, which is computer science, well, we call it technology, data science, and business. And for those, 64% of learners are enrolled in computer science, business, and data science, and that's pretty standard for the rest of the world as well.
Interesting, interesting. So I really like the ratio that you mentioned. It's been like that for quite some time. If I look at even the normal education, and you look at the tech education over here, like the schools and colleges. I mean, not only, I mean, this is just representing it in a different way, like the difference between male and female who take up, certain kind of tech courses in India. Now, having said that, another thing I'm interested in to that point of view, Chief, do you have women-specific courses, or do you plan to have anything related to women-specific courses? Is that a correct thing to say? Do you have something under that?
Yeah, we do. There are a number of them in the catalog, but just I think yesterday we launched something that we've been working on for over a year with Goldman Sachs, and it's the 10,000 Women Initiative, where they put together a full specialization on women entrepreneurs. And so it is a multi-course specialization from Goldman Sachs that really lays out all the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, and it's really tailored to helping women learn what it takes to become an entrepreneur and to be able to start a business. And so we're really excited. And Goldman Sachs has actually even created some scholarships to help fund this for women who want to start their own business. And that's one of the more recent ones that we're very excited about.
Interesting. That's amazing. That's a great initiative. You said it started around what, 2008-9? Is that the time it started?
We started authoring the materials about a year or two ago. We just launched it yesterday, so it just was launched yesterday in the press, and we're very excited. We think this can make a big difference and create a lot of economic opportunity to women that want to start businesses.
Interesting. Another thing, I mean, I'll just take a step back to what you said. I mean, you mentioned about data science. I mean, that also, translates into things like NLP, ML, and AI. Now, having said that, you look at any industry today. I mean, you look at the e-commerce industry. You look at the enterprise industry. Everybody's hopping on. I need data analytics talent. I need machine learning talent. I want to be the next big thing in AI. And having said that, it's great. That is. I mean, it's created an environment like everybody wants a new AI talent. Now, how far that is true is a different ball game altogether. But having said that, if your platform has so many courses around these elements, around these subjects, do you also have courses related to data privacy, policy courses related to these things? Because ultimately, when you're looking at something like data security or say machine learning, do you also have something related to data privacy or policy related course? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, we do. I mean, obviously in Europe with GDPR, there's a global awareness about the importance and obviously the visibility these days with Facebook, but the importance of privacy and security when it comes to data. We have a number of courses. There's a lot, basically anything there's a demand for, we have authors that want to publish things. So we have a cybersecurity specialization. We have something on data warehousing for business intelligence, which talks a lot about security. We have a Google IT certification, and there's a cybersecurity piece to that. We have a specialization called Information Security, Context and Introduction, and we have something called Introduction to Cybersecurity. So we have tens of courses on privacy and security, and you can get them from the leading universities in the world. So we think we have a pretty wide selection there.
Interesting. So, keeping with the same thought, I mean, I really want to understand this from you. I mean, since you folks see so many people from across the world who want to learn something related to ML or AI, all said and did. And even if you look at India, the last 1 year or so, I've seen institutes, billion-dollar companies, 100-year-old companies who are saying, no, I'll collaborate with this firm, I'll collaborate with firm B, I want people with this particular AI talent, like that. Now, what I want to understand is, so there's a lot of excitement around these new age tech platforms. And see, technically these are not new. They have been there for a long time. It's only because the presence of so much amount of data today, these things are coming into use. Now, by doing this, by creating new courses, you have so many companies saying, I want this talent, this is required, AI is the next big thing, ML is the next big thing. Do you think, Jeff, are we creating an atmosphere of, are we leading to an atmosphere of fear where we say there is too much of supply and the demand for those students will be this less? It happened many years back in India. It happened last year where we saw the repercussions of people losing their jobs, because there was a point of time people were like, no, I'll do this course, I'll do this particular course on engineering, this, that. A lot of people lost jobs because the demand suddenly went less. So are we creating an area of fear where there are this happened in India long back. Suddenly you had an engineering college left, right, center everywhere in India. But then there were no jobs for so many people. If say there are 1,000 students passing out from each college, there were not jobs for each 1,000 students. So are we creating a sense of fear by saying AI and ML is the next big thing, I want talent around that? Are we doing that, sir? Is that correct of me to say?
You know, I think the way that I think about that is at the highest level, the most important thing that I think countries as a matter of policy and businesses as a matter of practice need to do is help their people learn quickly. So I think to the extent that you're really gearing on just one thing, well, you know what? The world's going to be different in 5 years. Now, chances are the use of data is going to continue to advance. And I think the things that approximate intelligence will continue to get more sophisticated. So I don't think that's going to go away. But what I really encourage governments and businesses to do is really create a culture of learning where what they tell people is, yes, you're going to have to be learning for the rest of your lives. The things that will be required to do your job and to have a job will be different 5 years from now than they are today. And what you need to do is make sure that you get into a habit of learning. If it's AI and ML that gets people started, I think that's great. But to me, the real message should not be you need to learn ML. The real message is you need to learn for the rest of your life. So finding a place where you can learn and you can find out what types of skills are important in the workplace is going to be important. And when you look at the demographics of India in particular, over 50% of jobs, McKinsey reports over 50% of jobs could be impacted by automation. So there's a lot of jobs that could be impacted at a time when far more people in India are entering the workforce. I think McKinsey is basically saying that in the next 10 years, the only country where more people will be entering the workforce than India is China. India, I believe, is number 2. And they're entering the workforce at a time when many jobs will be automated. So I think it's really smart to be learning machine learning and other types of AI. But there's a course on Coursera, it's one of our most popular, called Learning How to Learn. That's the kind of course I think a lot of people should be taking, because this is really going to be about lifelong learning.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. A couple of last things, Jeff. That is very, very well put. A couple of last things, Jeff. Since I talked about job losses in India, which happened in the last 1.5 years. Now that means you can't do a blame game. There's a lot of blame game which happened last year. No, companies are bad. No, educational institutions are bad. They didn't teach us. No, it's up to the individual at the end of the day whether you want to reskill yourself, be better for the next 5 years, be better for the next 10 years. Now, having said that, there's a lot of talk on reskilling in India, especially with the IT services firms over here. Now, what step had you taken in the last 1 year in terms of, did you collaborate with these IT firms over here, or were you already doing this a step? How did you help IT firms in India reskill employees? Because considering the kind of job losses which happened last year in India.
Yeah, I think that the way that we do the reskilling primarily has to do with understanding what types of competencies are required in certain industries and in certain businesses. And so what we try to start with is kind of the competencies or the skills. We then also help companies assess what is the skill of your employees in certain jobs, and where's the gap between the skills that they have and the skills that they need to perform whatever type of job the company needs them to. And then what we do, we have something we call a skills graph, where we actually map, to every course we map certain skills. And we say, look, if you want these skills, here's a set of courses that can help you do that. And then we create these learning programs so that people in a certain type of job get access to certain types of skills. So what we've been doing in India is really helping map what kinds of competencies do you want to create for certain jobs, and then which courses would be the right courses for those folks to take in order to get those competencies. And because our courses come from universities, and they're very good, I mean, for hundreds of years, they've been creating courses and assessments to make sure that people really are learning the material. We think our programs are really high quality and do a good job of really making sure and assessing that people are learning the skills that the businesses want them to learn.
Lovely. So, to that point of view, I mean, does Coursera also collaborate with institutions in India, or do they just collaborate with institutions in North America or Europe? I'm just curious.
We certainly have many business partners who hire Coursera to upskill their employees. On the educational side, we have a relationship with India School of Business, and they've authored courses. We're interested in working more, and I expect that we will be working more and more with other universities. But what we found is if you look at some of the studies out there, there's one in particular that caught my eye, which suggests, it was by Google and KPMG, suggests that the India edtech sector will be a $1.96 billion industry by 2021. So clearly there's a lot of interest in upskilling people. And I do believe that with the kind of demographic dividend that India has, it's going to go, I think, one of two ways. I think if education is available and education can create opportunity for all these young people coming into the workforce, India is going to have a juggernaut with respect to skilled talent that could really serve the world, not just Indian companies. I think if India cannot provide the kind of educational opportunity to all these people coming into the workforce, you might have large unemployment, which is, of course, is a huge problem. So I really believe that the population and demographic phenomenon that we're seeing in India is really going to require a lot of education, and ed tech seems to be the way to do it. Because to your point, the number of people in remote areas without a lot of traditional schooling infrastructure, without all the buildings, and without all the professors and the training that's required, they're going to have to turn to their mobile phones. And they're going to have to turn to digital education in order to get access to the skills.
I'm going to hold you to that point. It's a great thought process that you have in your mind. I understand how big this market is going to be, especially the online edtech sector in India, the kind of potential it has. I think we just scratched the surface. Now, one very critical thing I want to understand over here. Now, if you step out of a metro city, for example, say in India, Bombay, you step out of Bombay, okay? You go into further towns, 100, 200 kilometers away from Bombay, somewhere in rural Maharashtra, Now there are students over there. Now there are engineering students there as well. But one of the biggest issues in India is all of the professors, the best of the best professors, or the best of the best students, they do not talk to each other in the same language. Now, there is a certain population in India which just understands English, talks to them in English. There is a reason, if you look at online streaming platforms today, there are so many of them in India which have content. Now, they are trying to go the regional way, because the next billion in India, whether they want to watch a movie online, whether they want to educate themselves on a platform like yours, they might want it in a language which is not English, which is something else. There might be his mother tongue, Kannada, Bengali, Tamil, Marathi. So what is Coursera's plan to take this platform to the next billion users? And these are regional language people. How do you do that? Do you have any plans in such?
I think what we do right now, what we do is two things. We partner with universities who do teach in native languages. So we have a number of universities in Latin America who've authored over 300 courses in Spanish. We have some courses we have a number of partners in Russia who have authored courses in Russian. One of our challenges right now is that we don't have enough universities in India who are teaching in local languages. But I think that teaching and then subtitling, we also have subtitles. Many of our courses are subtitled in more than 50 different languages. So, and we have a global translator community who actually translates in other languages. So we actually expose our translation tools to a community of learners who can say, you know what, I'd like to translate this course into, language A, B, or C, and they can essentially volunteer to translate our courses. And so we find that happening all the time. So as the population of India learners gets larger, Indian learners will be able to create subtitles for us if they would like to. And then finally, somewhere down the road with Google Translate or any other sort of real-time language translation, I do think that technology will solve a lot of the language problem. And the thing about language is that it seems to me is that the language processing, the technology to process and translate languages is usually a function of how many people are speaking that language. And so if there are a lot of people are speaking a language, even though there's not a lot of educational content, if the technology is able to do the translation, you'll be able to access a lot more people who can have real-time translation of the content via technology. But we're just not quite there yet. But I think that day could be.
That's a fair point, because I know a lot of really smart coders in India whose spoken English skills are not that good. So be it. Fair enough. But then they're just extremely good coders. They're extremely good programmers. So when I went and asked, I mean, as a reporter, I've been asking these folks for the last 1 year or so. Most of these guys, I know a lot of hackers in rural, and the hackers from smaller towns in India. Their spoken English skills are very bad. Their spoken, even Hindi skills are bad. They use some words of English, some words of their own mother tongue, but they still talk. So it's like that. I mean, it's like, saying if we have a course on, say, machine learning, but the subtitling is in English, which is a mix of English and Hindi. Imagine the kind of users you'll reach out to. Imagine the numbers you'll reach out to. But that's just putting a foot in the future. But Jeff, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you about Coursera and what you plan to do for the next 2-3 years in India.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Great. Thank you, Jeff.